What's going on, guys? Back with another video. So we got something interesting here from Table Salt, who just posted this on X a few hours ago. It's new. Poilievre says corporations are using cheap foreign labor to cut out Canadian workers. We need to ensure that more people leave Canada than come in over the next few years. LFG, baby. We all know what that means. So let's have a look at this. It's about a minute and a half long, and then we'll talk about it. Now, before we do get into it, though, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps grow the channel, and I appreciate you guys so much for doing that. So let's have a look at this, then we'll talk about it after, like usual.
Well, news. You previously called for severe limits to population growth in Canada. Can you clarify what you mean by that?
So, first of all, I'll tell you what I don't mean, which is natural population growth. That is almost non-existent in Canada. We have roughly the...
Sorry to pause it so quick, but just to touch in on that, he's absolutely right. The population growth is way lower than it used to be. I made a video on this probably a couple weeks ago. The birth rate in this country is like 1.3 births per child, or births per mother. Okay, so in order for it to be sustainable, it has to be slightly over 2 at the very least. In past generations, it's been as high as, I think, 4 something, which means you're going to have a big growth in natural population. We don't have that now. We're having a decrease. So what the government has done is brought in a lot of immigrants, so that's why you're seeing a population growth. It's not natural growth. People aren't having kids anymore for various reasons: divided society, affordability, right? Those are the 2 main reasons, I think. But he is right there. And we do have to fix that as well. But before we do, we need to make sure that people who shouldn't be here, not a race thing, not a religious thing, well, it depends on how you feel on that, but without getting too much into that, I'm not a religious scholar or anything like that, so I'm not going to touch too much on that, but we do need to be having more children, and that is a problem that needs to be addressed, but we need to make sure that this math issue of immigration, that's what it is, it's a math issue. It's not that we don't have the room, we just don't have the infrastructure, so we need to get that under control. Pierre's absolutely right, and then we can fix the whole, divided society affordability thing.
Same number of people who die as who are born. So all of our population growth, in fact, in the last quarter, I think there were more deaths than births. So what I am referring to is migration, net migration. We have millions of people whose permits will expire over the next couple of years, and many of them will leave. We need to ensure that more leave than come in over the next couple of years while we catch up. Well, housing, healthcare, and jobs can catch up. We've had population growth of roughly 1 million a year under the Liberals, while we barely build 200,000 homes.
You see what I mean? Like, that's a math problem. That's a numbers issue. But I remember a long time ago, the Liberals said, well, if you're against immigration, then, you're a racist. And guys, technically, you got to remember one thing. We're all immigrants. It's like, no, we're not. Do you know what the definition of an immigrant is? I'm going to paraphrase. I don't have the exact definition in front of me, but we all know that if you're born, say, in Spain and you go live in Canada, you're an immigrant. If you're born in Canada and you live in Canada, you're not an immigrant. It's very simple.
Our job market is stalled, and yet we're adding more people to the workforce.
Correct.
Our young people are facing generational highs in unemployment because the multinational corporations are giving jobs to low-wage temporary foreign workers, and that ultimately leave our young people without opportunities. Our country is divided, and we're not able to integrate people at this pace.
And, I'm really glad he said that, because a lot of people will criticize Pierre Poilievre's election campaign for not going into this hard enough. And it's like, okay, that's a fair point, but now he's learning his lesson, so that means he's able to learn and adapt. That's a very positive thing to see from a leader of a major party, right? It's not easy to deal with what he just dealt with. That was an election that we've never seen really before, with a leader being removed and then replaced with a guy who's a globalist banker. Then the NDP crashes, and then tariffs. It's like he had to deal with all of that. Not a single other conservative leader, at least in recent history in my life, would not have survived that. And yet, after all of that, he still got 41% of the vote. That is more of the percentage of the vote than any conservative has ever received in my lifetime, and I'm almost 40. Okay, so it's not like he got blown out of the water or anything like that. It looks bad when you lose your seat. It looks bad when you had a 25-point lead. But to say that Pierre fumbled it like you're using a sports term, it's like, no, the closest thing that you could use that would be like a term that you would use in sports that's accurate would be Hail Mary. Because that's what the Liberals did. They threw a Hail Mary, and it worked. Hail Marys almost never work. Sometimes they do, but most of the time they don't. It worked this time. If that's their plan going into every election, they're going to lose a lot of elections in the future. They don't have anyone to replace Carney. The NDP is not going to continue to drop like they did. Tariffs aren't going to be around forever. Maybe for the rest of Trump's administration, I don't know, but they're not going to be here forever. These are issues that the Liberals, they got a little bit lucky, but they were also smart to remove Justin Trudeau. They knew he was going to get crushed. So they pulled him out. The media helped glaze over Mark Carney. Then the other things that I said, and then that's how Pierre lost. Could he have done better, showing his humility a little bit more, maybe going on podcast? Sure. Would that have helped though? I don't think so. I think the swing voters and the Liberals, they made up their mind. Well, the Liberals have already had their mind made up, but the swing voters decided, hey, look, Carney's the guy to deal with Trump. And that's what they thought. They're wrong, obviously. And you know they're going to have buyer's remorse very quickly if they're not already, but that being said, Pierre is going to probably win his leadership race. He's going to very likely be back in the House of Commons in September, and he'll be back, and you'll see his popularity likely soar again. Now that he's talking more about immigration, I'm sure he's learned his lesson. I know he called a bunch of people after the election. The pleb, for example, talked to him for a long time, and he was listening to people's criticism and thanking them for their work. Didn't hear a single person say that about Carney. But either way, let me know what you guys think. I see PP here is trending. I wonder what the Liberal idiots are up to today. Isn't it hard to type with your elbows up?